today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, I say, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. People have heard that, and they always kind of, I think, wonder where it comes from. It's, obviously you're like, oh, some great naval battle, right? That must be. And in a way it is. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. So during the Civil War, August 5th, 1864, Admiral Farragut, who was the first admiral in the United States Navy, the Battle of Mobile Bay, it was basically, in the Gulf of Mexico there, and they were looking to kind of get down and take New Orleans back, and a lot of big things going on. And they went in to basically take charge, and the USS Tecumseh ended up hitting a mine. And, it's one of these where it's like kind of hung by a chain and, and floating in the water. It hit it. It just completely sunk and destroyed the ship.
It was pretty much immediately sunk, wasn't it?
And the keel broke. It split in half and just sunk down to the depths, right? The icy depths.
And this was a heavily fortified naval base
in Alabama. Yeah.
Right.
And so they were like, kind of, I got to say there was a lot of defeat amongst the crew is how it reads. And people kind of were ready to give up. And Farragut was, you know what? And so here's the deal. It's damn the torpedoes. And, it kind of never makes sense if you think of it as we think of traditional torpedoes. Like, why are we not using the torpedoes? Why are we, whatever.
Right.
But that was the thing. The idea was they were calling the landmines or were torpedoes. And that's what they were at the time. All right. That was the modern language of it all. And so he ends up, you know what? We don't care about the mines. It doesn't matter. We need to win. We're all in. And they just charged in, and they ended up having a distinct victory that really, turned the tides of the war. I mean, it was a big stronghold that they were able to overtake. And I guess the actual wording when they get down to it was, damn the torpedoes, 4 bells, go ahead, full speed. And it just kind of, and actually it was 4 bells, captain, and whoever the heck it was. And,
right.
But you get the idea. And obviously, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. You live in infamy with something like that. That's just, and that's one of the things. I think that's what I wanted to talk about today and dig in on the podcast was so often you just get beat up so long. And, what a better example than, a war that just goes on, and you just feel like there's no hope and you're defeated and you're not, able to get ahead. And I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way with politics, with America, with the way things are going in the world. And it's honestly not just in America. I think internationally, people are feeling defeated and overwhelmed by inflation. And I think even when things appear to be lost, you can't give up. There's too much that, it turns out you can overturn things. Things can get better. And hopefully we got some examples of, instances of that tonight. And, we'll make things better. Right, Kevin? What's your thought?
Right. That's right. I think that, it is really one of those things, tenacity,
Yeah.
It's easy to get beaten up because it's frustrating, you got to get a little bit ahead and then, that check engine light comes on,
Damn it. And then a deer hits the fender in the car.
Right. Yeah.
Another hit.
and it just keeps coming, you know. But if you know, sometimes you think that you can't make your life any better. But if you look at it from the other angle, you can easily make your life worse. You know, you can pick up a gambling addiction. You know, it's easy to make things worse. So you know, it's possible to make things better. You know, but if you think about it, you can easily make your life worse, right? You can pick up a gambling addiction, get some crack, you know, and you know, you can make your life better because you can make your life worse. You can obviously do something, work a little bit harder, push a little bit longer, and you know, it's not easy to do.
And I think that's one of the things, though. I mean, to be honest, life's pretty cush for us. Now, I know everyone's like, well, you know, everything's really expensive and I can barely pay my bills. But when you look at the bigger picture, do you not have a freaking computer in your freaking hand when you
Right.
get up in the morning? Do you not have like unlimited TV choices? And if you make money, you can have unlimited TV choices with no commercials.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, things are, and hey, can you not download the Survival and Basic Badass podcast for free?
For free.
For free. And we had put some ads in the beginning, and I think, I don't know, I think we're gonna start to cut those away a little bit and thin it out. I don't think we need the ads bothering people as much.
Yeah, everybody fucking hates commercials.
Everybody hates commercials. Although, you know, I've heard that people sometimes just skip and hit the 30-second.
It's possible to do that. Yeah, you can just jump ahead 15 seconds and 15 seconds and 50. Eventually, you're listening to the show and you haven't heard any commercials.
And you haven't, you know, I mean, that's, you know, I heard that in a movie. That might be a thing. Turns out the other option is if you have Spotify, you can just, people who have the paid Spotify don't get those commercials. Do you know that? I didn't know that.
I know that because I listen to the show and on
no
Spotify.
And
I
you're
pay
like,
for.
hey, that's it. I was like, what do you think about the commercials to one of my buddies? And he's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I have paid Spotify. I don't do that crap.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I see how it is.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you're doing there. And no, anyway, but you get the idea. Now, there's another story that you always hear quoted. I think the first time I came across it was like Robert Kiyosaki's book, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or maybe it was Napoleon Hill, you know, with Think and Grow Rich, one of those. But they talk about, you know, burning your ships so there's no turning back and you're just all in. And that came from back in 1519. Hernan Cortez had about 500 troops and they landed down, I guess, what is today Mexico. And they basically fought for 2 years and ended up conquering the Aztecs.
Mm-hmm.
And well,
which had a 1,000,000-man army.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, maybe
exactly.
not.
But yeah, exactly. You know,
yeah.
and maybe it was 600. I don't know. But the thing is, so the idea was he arrived. This is the story of legend. He arrived and he set his ships on fire and they turned and looked back and we're like, what are you doing? And he's like, no, this way we, you know, we win or we perish and we fight to the death. Now, there is some question. It seems like history keeps getting rewritten. You guys probably haven't seen this play out in the modern day, but there are rumors that history, you can just keep changing textbooks and write whatever the hell you want.
Yep.
And whatever. So there are rumors that 2 years after the event, that story came to kind of life. But what actually might have happened is he was being chased by other people and ran the ships aground and was like, well, I don't know what to do.
I guess we're fucked now.
And it was dumb luck and it panned out. But that's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is sometimes you just got to be all in and take the win.
Yeah. And why would you let facts get in the way of a good story?
Exactly. I mean, that's why you listen to this podcast, right? Now, is that the wrong attitude, Kevin?
No, that's it. And I'll give you some facts here. This is
All right,
these are true stories.
yeah, true story.
Battle of Belleau Wood. That is World War One. The United States was just getting involved. This is 1918. War's been going on for a long time. They're having casualties like, you know, 30,000, you know, people a week are getting killed. It's like just massive casualties on both sides. What was going on is they were still fighting wars like, you know, with cavalry charges and stuff against machine guns. It just didn't, things weren't working out the way they thought it would, you know? So that sort of stuff those sort of tactics didn't work anymore. On June 1st, the German forces punched a hole in the French lines at the left of the Marines' position. On June 2nd, the Marines filled the gap. 23rd Infantry Regiment, the 5th Marines, under Major Julius Turrell, and Marine 6th Machine Gun Battalion. On June 3rd, German infantry attacked, like they just poured massive amounts of people into the gap, and the Marines just held their position. They had the French told them they needed to like dig fallback positions, but you know, why would you waste your time doing that if you're not going to retreat? You know, you don't retreat. Marines don't retreat. And the Germans actually ran into one of the most terrifying things in the planet, which is accurate, sustained gunfire.
Oh,
and they just kept charging, and bodies kept piling up. Massive amounts of casualties. And over the next 3 or 4 days, everybody was just shot to shit, you know? On June 3rd, on June 6th, the Marines attacked German positions, and that was the famous line, come on, you sons of bitches, do you want to live forever? And they didn't. Most of them got shot to shit, but they did capture the positions. Now, that was the guy that said that was First Sergeant Dan Daly, which a lot of people don't know him. He's like kind of one of the forgotten heroes of history. But at that point, he had already had 2 Medal of Honors. Like, he's a pretty legitimate dude. Served in the Philippines, Santo Domingo, Haiti, Peking, China, and Veracruz. He was, you know, fought in all those countries before World War One. So he was already like a badass, and he did actually survive the combat there. The French, on the next day, the French told them that there were more Germans coming and they needed to retreat. And the answer was, retreat hell, like, just got you.
That, yeah, exactly. That sounds like the French. That's
yeah, it's like a specifically French line. But yeah, no, you don't retreat, don't back down. And you know, you might get beat to shit, but sometimes it's worth getting beat to shit over something, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's I guess, you know, one of the big things with why I wanted to, you know, talk about this today is people seem to get defeated and get into this depression and overwhelmed. And, you know, it's pretty good. Life is pretty awesome right now. And the thing is, though, if you're that dissatisfied with how things are and how things are going, then you need to be all in fixing it. And there's nothing, you're not risking anything if you really believe you don't have anything. You know, I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to, is it's worth fighting, and people don't fight anymore. People are losing a lot of that, you know, initiative. And I'm not saying, you know, oh, we need to take up arms and whatever. That's not what I mean in any way. What I mean is enjoy it, man. Embrace what you got, and, you know, go out and fight for it. And there's nothing wrong with, hey, I don't like the way, you know, things are going in my kid's school and how things are going there and how they're being treated and the things they're being taught. Maybe I don't have the homeschool options that I wanted and that kind of thing. Then maybe you need to join that school board. Maybe you need to do the research. And the thing is, I got to say, even though I know there's a lot of people in America with the elections coming up in November and things like that, that you feel like, well, I don't have a good choice. You know, it's either crap or crappier. And, you know, and we have mixed reviews on which side is crappier, but we can all agree it's crap.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone feels overwhelmed. But maybe if you start writing op-ed pieces on the internet, sharing your thing, or, I guess if somebody still read a newspaper, they have opinion pieces and that kind of thing. I don't really know if newspapers are a thing. Like I saw them in a movie a little while back. There was one of those.
I still buy one
You,
occasionally.
you do? Okay. Yeah, they have like this pamphlet that they give me for $1.50 when I go to the gas station.
Uh-huh.
That they're like, oh yeah, that's the paper, the Telegraph or whatever there. And I'm like, what's this? A folded piece of paper? And yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the point. I mean, a lot of people just get overwhelmed and kind of either one shut into their box and like, oh, I'm just gonna hide and whatever. Now, I gotta say, feeling like you can't make the big difference in politics and wanting to just go and kind of hunker down, that kind of a lot of preppers take that tactic, right? And I get wanting to, ensure your success. And the more I can avoid dealing with the outside world, it makes me happier inside. So
Yeah.
I get you, right?
Yeah.
I get you. I'm your people. But just the same, going out and voting for the guy for sheriff or maybe running for sheriff is, the answer, and going out and changing things, start to put your ideas. I feel like so much more, I was just talking, I was just watching Joe Rogan, and they were talking about how there's kind of like a revolution with the younger kids in the high schools, and they're just kind of not taking it anymore as far as all the political correctness that they're being taught. And a lot of them are starting to stand up to it. And I think people realize and are starting to recognize, and they're just waiting for somebody to step up and be a leader. And that's I think where we need to be, is you need to be that leader. You need to start putting out the ideas that matter. That's something, as a prepper, typically you don't want to put all your business. Hey, I'm all about food storage, and I'm all about, playing with guns, and I'm all about, going out and sticking up for what I believe, and the hell with the government, some kind of rage against the machine kind of attitude. Kevin knows what I'm talking about. He has that rage in his heart, right?
That's right.
And that's the thing, he's like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, right? Right. And I say that at work, and people don't even know that I'm quoting Rage Against the Machine. I mean, what kind of world are we living in?
Yeah, no, really, things are going to shit.
Right. This is where it's falling apart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what it comes down to is, people need that passion, and you need to kind of, instead of being cowards and scared, and I'm not saying, hey, that means go out and put your business everywhere. No, this is the path that me and Kevin have chose. We've said, you know what, we're willing to give up some of our security and, the stuff of our supplies by putting our information out there is what I mean. And in order to wake other people up, in order to have other people be prepared and be ready to fight. Because you can't, I understand you don't want to do battle every day when you go to work or when you go to get your coffee. You don't want to fight with somebody about politics or nonsense. And I think it's really important we don't get lost in the weeds of arguing about, well, your candidate's an idiot because of this, and your candidate looks orange, or your candidate is old and wears diapers. That doesn't help anything.
Mm-hmm.
We need to kind of refocus things to talking about ideas and things that are going to take us ahead and further, and basically get people where they need to be. We need to start looking at how we can make things right. Instead of running around and being like, yeah, the world's crappy, real estate, everything, it's going to hell, I can't afford anything, interest rates are crap. Well, we need to start talking about the ideas and the successes we can have and the things that we can do. And we need to build on that. And then we need to come together and start changing the things that are crappy and bringing it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I see a lot of people, don't get me wrong. I'm a nice guy. I'm very polite. But every once in a while, you run into that person that's just openly hostile. I can match that energy, bro. Like, go ahead. Go ahead. You want to get started? The thing is, there's nothing wrong with pushing. There's nothing wrong with being a little pushy. And there's nothing wrong with working 60 hours a week. Don't disregard your family. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying, but sometimes it takes a little bit more effort to get ahead than what you're putting out.
Is that right, Kevin?
That might be a little rough to say, but I know a lot of the guys, and just from meeting the people that listen to the show, interacting with people, I can see that a lot of the people listening to this podcast are those people that are pushing, that are working 60 hours a week. Those guys that are getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day, and you don't have time to hit the gym. Wake up at 4 in the morning. Obviously you're not sleeping fast enough.
Sleep harder.
Sleep harder. Get at it, man.
That's what it comes down to. I don't know, man. It's America's pretty great, right? Like, we look at all the bad, and we can argue whether I was talking to the wife, and I was like, well, because somebody had said something about America being fascist, or something like that, right? I don't even know if it was Trump or somebody said something, and it was all about America's fascist, and she's like, well, you guys don't really know what fascism is, and we were debating about that and button heads, and I'm like, well, the government is kind of colluding with business, and there is a lot of, and I'm like, so there's a lot of ideas. Right?
Yeah, at the same time, the trains aren't really running on time,
Yeah, that's.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So, but the thing is, that's it. You can get lost in the weeds of, this isn't right. But how about we start looking for solutions and ideas, and start, stop fighting amongst ourselves. And I know, this whole prepper community isn't fighting amongst ourselves, but you do run that dangerous road. I feel like where we really lost the education system was everybody was like, well, I'm just going to work hard and take care of my family, and, my kids will see what I do.
Right.
And we my generation kind of stopped paying attention to the schools and what was really going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think we lost a lot of ground in the schools. I believe that. You can debate me all day on that, but obviously, you can be like, well, there is this one good teacher at my kid's school. Yeah, but what about the other 6 that they deal with all day? Know? Mm-hmm. And yeah, there is one guy there that's probably putting out good stuff and looking out for your kids. But the bottom line is, you need to be putting in the effort of hard working and taking care of your own business and getting yourself prepared. But if we can kind of do a little bit of change in the outside world, I think it'd be awesome. If we can start to bring things back a little bit, I think that's where we need to focus, and America needs to head to. And I think the world needs to head to. There's nothing, we don't need to be out hating each other and whatever. That's not going to help anything. We need to be, hey, here's a solution. Hey, you know what? The food's really crappy and my health is poor because of what I'm eating and what I'm doing. You know what? If you guys start growing food, and here's an easy way. Here's how you could make your garden, and make gardening cool again, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. And you're all right. Maybe your thing isn't, hey, I'm afraid of bioengineered full food and whatever. How about in the few free states we have left where you can homeschool? And I guess, I think you can probably homeschool everywhere in America. Is that a thing?
Some places it's a little bit more difficult, but you can do it everywhere still.
Your curriculums or subject stuff, and they have to pass certain tests, to whatever. It gets hairy, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll give you one caveat to that. I was following up on somebody's thread. It was like a parent, like homeschooling thing where they're talking about it. And this
one of
lady was,
Kevin's many moms groups that he's a part of.
yeah, there you go. And this one mom was talking about how she was homeschooling her kid, and her 8-year-old couldn't read, and she was just assuming that the 8-year-old would just pick it up without ever being taught to read. Maybe you shouldn't be homeschooling your kid if you don't know how to teach your kid how to read. You know what I mean? Like, there's some basics that you need to put in some effort to actually homeschool your kids. You can't just keep them home and be like, oh, they'll learn from watching TV or something, right?
So you actually have to teach your
You
kids.
actually have to teach your kids if you're
Kevin is a
homeschooling.
product of some kind of homeschooling with a parent that maybe didn't teach. Is that not true?
I was homeschooled, and both
How'd
my
that work
parents
out?
worked. I had to teach myself, and so basically, what happened is I'd get up in the morning. My parents would go to work. I'd go back to sleep until about 10, and then Jerry Springer was on.
Yes, Jerry.
After Jerry was Happy Days, a Happy Days rerun,
Oh, I like Happy Days.
and then I would do my schoolwork for about 2 hours, and my parents got home. Everything was kosher.
But what's messed up though is I gotta say, it feels like with all the nonsense going on in a lot of classrooms today, and again, this is stuff I'm getting from social media. This is stuff I see from talking to other parents out there who have kids in the public school system. I feel like if you cut down to actual learning and good things, there's only an hour or two of that going on. I think it was when George Bush, when W kind of switched it to the teaching to the lowest denominator thing,
Yeah.
where everybody, because we got to worry about people's feelings, right? And they all got to, and so maybe you getting 2 hours of education at home, or an hour or 20 minutes, wherever the line is. And I'm talking about you personally, Kevin. Maybe that's, that was about equal to what kids were getting in public school.
Right.
Because what I learned from Motley Crue, they're pretty much hanging out in the bathroom smoking cigarettes all the time.
I'm pretty sure that's how high school. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's how high school goes.
That's how you imagine it? Yeah. I mean, I was down at Burger King.
That's where you're smoking cigarettes down at Burger King instead of the bathroom, but whatever. Different strokes, man. Different strokes, man. Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of that, honestly, most of my education came from Jerry Springer. I mean, he knew what was up. I don't know. He got in trouble. He was a governor. He got in trouble for,
I think,
getting a hooker and paying the hooker with a check. That's maybe not the smartest dude that you want to follow up on, with, but you don't pay hookers with checks. Come on.
Kevin, I'm Jerry Springer. That check is going to be good.
But whatever. But I mean, the point of it is that
are writing checks for illegal activities like the very definition of leaving a paper trail?
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. Yeah. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that story for a different day. Moving along. I think that I think a lot of that, and Slow Burner mentioned that, going for a walk, going camping, doing the basic repairs on your house, maintaining your yard, all that sort of stuff is good for your mental health. Getting something accomplished. It's not good for your mental health? Doing something half-assed and not being able to finish it up on time.
I thought it was staring at the phone, but
that's also not great for your mental health.
Here's the thing. I mean, it's all like tools, right? So reading, it turns out you can just read crap all day and not really help yourself.
That's right.
You might be understanding words. I think there's definitely some kind of benefit of creating a story in your mind's eye that stimulates your brain, where even if you're reading crap, you're still stimulating your brain and getting ahead, right? Then we can take it to like podcasts, right? The thing is, all right, am I getting a takeaway at the end? Do I know something that I didn't know before and I'm moving ahead? And again, I mean, sometimes you do need to let your brain relax a little bit and you want to be entertained or some fun. I know, like after work when I was young, I used to come home and like watch Seinfeld. You know, it's like Seinfeld was on at 11 or something, and I'd come home and before bed I'd watch that. And you know, I'm not a better person after that half hour. I didn't learn anything. I'm probably lost a few brain cells. You know, it's some kind of Adam Sandler thing where you're now dumber having watched that. But the thing is, sometimes we need to relax. So I'm not taken away from those things. Like we do things that are less. It's just that you need to make sure that you're putting some effort into developing yourself. You know, every, you know, extra hour you do a day of doing something that's important to you, whether that's, you know, working out, going to the gym, whether that's, you know, stretching your brain by, you know, learning new things, figuring out creative stuff. You can learn tons of creative stuff on your phone. It doesn't mean that you're wasting your time and bad is happening because you're staring at your phone. It's just be aware of what you're choosing and what you're filling your mind with. That's all. You know, it just, you know, half time I'm looking for new ideas. And that's how I work it out. It's like, I'm like, well, I'm watching TikTok all day, but I'm trying to figure out how other people are influencing people and doing it. See how it's not me wasting time watching cats. It's like I'm growing at the same time. You see what I did there?
Yeah, I think books are kind of like food. You know, you can eat
Yes.
Twinkies, you can eat broccoli. You know, Twinkies are a lot better than broccoli, honestly. Broccoli
You
tastes
know,
like
broccoli just got pesticides. So
shit. Yeah, you know, do you remember George Bush? It was
wait,
George
the
Bush
fun
Sr.
one or the okay, not fun one. Okay.
No, the CIA
Yeah.
psychopath. I don't
Yeah,
know if he's a
that one.
psychopath, but I think he killed a
It
lot of
felt
people.
like it. It felt like it.
Yeah, but he famously hated broccoli. And Barbara, his wife, one of my favorite first ladies historically, Barbara Bush, she always made him eat his broccoli until he became president. And then that was the famous thing. He's like, I'm the goddamn president. If I don't want to have broccoli, I'm not eating broccoli. And he never ate broccoli again.
Wow. So that's
But
all I have to do to get out of broccoli?
you just got to be president. However,
Oh,
the controversy over it made a big resurgence of broccoli. Broccoli sales skyrocketed after that whole situation.
really? Kind of
Just
what the
because Barbara
opposite.
Bush was a big on pushing broccoli, and her
Right.
husband was against broccoli, and it, you know, just worked out. Barbara was a good woman. Said last time I cried was when Barbara passed away. The
Sure.
next time it'll probably be when Dolly Parton passes away.
Wow.
God forbid.
Is it weird that Dolly Parton's fun level has gone up as she's kind of gotten a little bit senile and whatever? Like Dolly's back in it. She's like, yeah. And
I love it. I saw her
good
old
time
ass.
right there.
I saw her old ass in a picture wearing jeans, and I gotta say, for 70 years old, god damn.
Hey, and she's out for a good time, right? I feel like now maybe it's just age, or maybe there's a little dementia going on. I hate to say it. I know I'm already upsetting people. I'm seeing in the comments people, you know, hey, Dolly's sacred, don't push it. You're saying I feel like there's less of a filter with Dolly. I think we can all agree on that. And it could just be that she's more, you know, hey, I'm old. What are they going to do? You know, I only got so much more you can mess with me.
Yeah.
And plus, she's out there pushing books for kids. So
Yeah, God forbid, right? That's the worst thing you could do. I mean, she's giving away free books to every kid in Tennessee every year on their birthdays.
yeah,
And
she's all over it.
if you don't live out there, you can actually write to her and she will send a book to your kid.
Yeah, no, Dolly got you.
And she got you covered.
Yeah, if you're somehow stuck in some weird United Way trap where you have to give it work or they fire you, I don't know. Like the U.S. military was kind of like that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I went to boot camp, they're like, you all need to sign up to donate to the United Way. And my drill instructor guy came out and he's like, you know what? And it's the Navy. We didn't call him. I guess we did call him.
It was drill instructors in the Navy too, yeah.
Yeah, just whatever. Just not the same. It wasn't Arlie Ermy, but he was pretty
wasn't.
squared away. And he goes, I'll tell you what, you guys are all freaking E1s and you're so damn poor. If you give money to anybody, you're an idiot. And it's like, that would be the dumbest decision you could ever make. And I'm like, oh, all right. Now I'm kind of at a point where I can, all right, a little bit of charity, we can help
A little
out,
bit of charity
look
isn't
out for
bad.
others,
Mhm.
and hey, that's what you do. But I'm just saying, there are a lot of people out there doing good. And if you got it and you can help people out, that's awesome. And that's how it should be. And I got to say, the little things, my problem is I always end up wanting to give of my time instead of, and it gets to the point where you're like, look, I can't have any more friends because I'm too busy. And I'm always, and I guess what I mean is I can only come fix your fridge. I can only come rewire your house. I can only, it gets a little exhausting. And I'm
Right.
like, the friends like, where are the buddies who are coming over? Hey, you're working on your truck. Let me come over. I'll
Mhm.
bring the beer. Or
Yeah.
maybe I'll bring the beer and you just come over and we'll hang out.
Right.
But that doesn't happen. And not
Yeah.
as
I'll come over and watch you work on your truck if you give me beer.
there
That's
you go.
usually
That's what I'm looking for.
that's usually how it works out, right? But that's fine. I mean, who hasn't begrudgingly helped somebody move for a cold slice of pizza at the end,
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Sometimes you need to help out a friend, and sometimes a friend comes by to help you out. Chuck was always good for that. Anytime I was working on some bullshit, I called him out. He'd come by, man.
That's why I had to move away. I'm like,
Yeah, he didn't have enough time in his life.
I can only fix so many things.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. And then I'm like, I'm going to go start over with no friends. It'll be the best day ever.
Right.
And then now instead, my wife is out making friends for me. And
yeah. Well,
it's like,
I know that the happiest point in your life is the time when you don't have friends, when nobody calls you on the phone, when nobody wants to talk to you. That's Chuck's favorite way to live. And
you meant my happiest time, not everybody in general.
not everybody, just Chuck.
No,
yeah,
that's just Chuck. All right.
Yeah, most people actually like other people and will enjoy spending time with them. But
I'm a horrible
not Chuck.
person. Kevin, you make me feel bad. I don't know. But you get the idea, right? I mean, we got to not get overwhelmed and not get lost in the weeds of, hey, things are lost. And they're not lost. Things are pretty awesome. There's a lot of great out there. There's a lot of twisted and crazy. There are a lot of people who are like, hey, I can't afford to go get fast food anymore. And I get that. And that's a reality. Like, I go there less because I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't really want to spend my money on that. Plus, it tastes like crap and, whatever. But
it's not really fast. It's not cheap, and it tastes like shit. So you can go anywhere and get bad food.
Right? You can go sit down and have people wait on you, and it pretty much costs the same if you pick the right spot.
Yeah.
You got to think about where you're going. There's not a lot that,
Yeah, and honestly, McDonald's doesn't serve beer, so I mean, really, you know what I mean? Really, do I want to go out someplace that doesn't even have alcohol?
When I was in the Navy in France, they did have beer at McDonald's
because they do it right there.
They do it right. That was the only thing France was doing right.
I mean, they did invent the menage a trois, so I'll give them a little bit.
Those two things. The hairy armpits, although that doesn't frighten me anymore. I don't know.
Hairy armpits?
It was probably after the visit to France. That's
got desensitized.
Desensitized. Yeah. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, France was ridiculous. I have to admit, that was not. I think maybe the problem though is when you're in the Navy and you go to places, you go to like the shitty port cities.
Yes,
that are always a dump.
Everyone's
so I mean, maybe that's why I don't like.
Yeah, I got. Oh, you were in Venice for a week. But you go see this. You go see. No. Where'd you eat? Well, I ate at McDonald's every day. Well, why didn't you go to they have all that amazing food there. Well, I don't have money for that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. I can go to the dive, and it turns out when you're in a city, you got to spend a little time learning where all the good, cheap places are.
Right.
Like it takes some effort to get that. Like, unless you hook up with somebody who's going to be like, hey, I know where all the cool, cheap things are. Right. We don't have that. I mean, there was, I think in Israel, they were like, all right, look, there is this one bar that's pretty awesome that all the sailors go to. It was run by some kind of former Russian. former KGB guy.
Right.
He was happy to get everybody drunk and tell me more stories about your ship.
Uh-huh.
Oh, what do they do on there? Oh, how does that work? That's very interesting.
Mhm.
Let me write that down. Those are always, how you do it.
Yep.
But I don't know. So anyway, I know you guys, Survival Basic Badass Podcast, you love it. You need to like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Share it with your friends. I know that's not something people really do, but people into, prepping and whatever, we're happy if you pass it along. But also I wanted to point out September, I'm going to be at Prepper Camp. You can check out preppercamp.com. You can come see me in person. I would love to meet some of you guys, firsthand, get to know you. And we're going to have a booth there. So it's going to be pretty awesome. Kevin, I'm still trying to work on. I don't think I can get him there. I believe he said something about I'm too cool for camping. I think those were his exact words.
Those words have never come out of my mouth.
No.
I'm going to try and make it, but I think that I probably might come down a little bit sooner than that, and maybe Chuck and I can do some podcasts while I'm down there and
stuff together.
See if we can get something together. Yeah.
You guys be living the dream. That's right. So anyway, I really appreciate it. Prepper Camp is in North Carolina. It's out in the eastern side, I think by Asheville, somewhere around there. But anyway, if you check out preppercamp.com, you can get some tickets to that. It's like a 3-day and event. It's got everybody there in the prepping world. I feel like, obviously there's a lot of other guys out there. I don't know, but it's got what is it? Is it Bill Austin?
Mm-hmm.
It runs it. He's what? It just eludes me now. Like I'm in a brain.
Yes, it was a Secret Garden one, that right?
Yeah, Secret Garden. Sorry, and he has that secret greenhouse of survival, that kind of stuff. Yeah. No, and if you came out for a day, it'd be awesome. And it is like a 3-day event. I know that it sells out like ridiculously fast because it was weird. I like applied to be a speaker there and reached out to them, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll get right back to you. And it was like 3 months later, and we're still, this is not till September, and they got back to me in like March, maybe even February, and we're like, yeah, you're in, we're gonna do this. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get a campsite, and so all the campsites are sold out. You're not camping here.
Yeah.
And then it's funny though, because I reached out and I was like, hey man, what am I gonna do here? There's no campsites. Do I just go get a hotel? And he's like, oh no, dude, you got a booth. He's like, you already got a tent set up. You just sleep on the ground with your stuff.
That sounds terrible.
He's like, you're on a lake. It'll be great. And I'm like, excellent. I'm in. So I got some kind of mats that you lay on, and we're in. So you don't need to worry. But I know there are still like hotels and stuff all around and things you can do if you want to check it out for a day or two. But also you can stop by for a day and, check it out.
Yeah, you don't have to do the whole 3 days.
You don't have to make it a life-changing event, although hanging out with the badass for 3 days could be, life-changing.
Could be, right?
So, yeah, exactly. All right.
I think, is that it?
Yeah. So email us, preppingbadass@gmail.com. Show topics, ideas, things you want to hear about, questions, concerns, things you want to tell Kevin. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.